All right. Don't worry. You are not being recorded.
Oh, good.
I promise.
I had no idea my voice was so loud.
I had no idea how annoying my voice is. My gosh, I felt like I don't know. I guess Sophia said we're all we're all overcritical of our own voices. But it sounded like I had like a...
Last week was
Yes, I want to... Yes.
every sigh, everything. You could hear both of us.
Oh yeah, I got
clearly.
Sunny really good.
I mean, yeah, really good. I forgot all about your recording. So it was just.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, I was out of it last week. Anyway,
I made
2
one.
hours of sleep. I don't know what I was.
I made one academic mistake, very very clear academic mistake.
You did?
Yeah, well, it was something. It was, and I deleted it. So, but it was. I said I confused Philadelphia with Philippi,
Oh.
and that was But I made like a dozen mistakes, where I was, like, I got the subject of the sentence wrong. Like I meant Polycarp, but I said John the Apostle or something like that. And so I would say I would start off the sentence. Oh, and Polycarp said this, and then at the end, I said, and that's what John the Apostle said, and it's like, and so I had to delete a lot of stuff. I had to listen to myself, and I had to go, oh shoot, I was maybe I shouldn't talk so much.
Well, I misunderstood your question.
What's your question? What's my question?
You had a question, something about Judas. You asked a question about Judas.
Okay.
And as soon as you said that, I got this picture in my mind of when Jesus called Judas and why he called him.
Okay.
And I realized afterwards I missed what you were trying to say.
That's
because I
fine.
was
That happens.
focused on that.
That happens.
Songs on the
Anyway.
Finding Group. Finding Group.
The Finding Grace group.
Yeah, Finding Grace group. Yeah.
The Lord, oh my.
Wait.
I'll just listen because I have to get my.
Oh, this
my
is Judy.
husband's
Ju-
family
This is
garbage
Judy's one
out
of Judy's
my
favorite
head.
hymns.
Told me all the
No wonder
problems.
he asked me to do this.
Get it
I told Judy I'm gonna make a song called 10,001 Reasons, and it's gonna blow hers
So
away.
you open this like a Finding Group. Finding Grace
All right,
group.
I'm there.
Okay. Yeah. I will open my music.
Okay. Open. How about you just do it for me?
Yeah.
These young people know how to do all that stuff. I just sit here and my son says, "You don't have an Apple. I don't know how to do this." Thank you.
And we'll start with prayer.
Okay. Oh, that's a. Oh, okay.
Okay, so we pray together. Heavenly Father, thank you for being with us. Though we only have 4 persons today, please open our heart and focus our words all on the gospel and to bring us together and bring us to love you more and love each other more. Pray in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Amen.
Yes. And suck that negative out.
Yeah, I will try to sing this song.
Yeah. Bless the Lord. Praise the Lord. That's a perfect song.
Sing together.
Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship His holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul. I worship Your holy name. The sun comes up, it's a new day dawning. It's time to sing Your song again. Whatever may pass and whatever lies before me, let me be evening comes. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship his holy name. Sing like never before. Oh, my soul, I worship your holy name. You're rich in love and you're slow to anger. Name is great and your heart is kind. For all your goodness I will keep on singing. 10,000 reasons for my heart to find. And bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship his holy name. Never before, oh my soul, I worship your holy name. On that day when the strength is failing and draws near and my time has come, till my soul will sing your praise unending. 10,000 years and then forevermore. Forevermore. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship his holy name. Sing like ever before, oh my soul. I'll worship your holy name. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship his holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul. I worship his holy name. I worship your holy name. Yes, I worship your holy name.
Yes.
Babe.
Oh, that was beautiful.
Yeah.
And we also have another one.
I hear that. I hear
Wow.
Judy plays that song every week.
Everybody?
Yes, she loves that song.
Oh, wow.
You know, sometimes I can find 10,000 reasons to.
Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah,
It's a lot of
to
words, but I
sing.
like
Yeah, I have zero reasons to to sing, but I find every time the gospel and the Jesus love help me to turn my heart back to His side. I think it's a real important power in my life. Yeah. Sometimes I feel disappointment about Jesus. Due to the word around, I can see no reason to sing to Jesus. But when you do the cross, you do your things, you do death, you deserve.
Mhm.
I'll have the sin. So we move to another song. How deep the Father's love. And the song helps us to love Him more.
The Father's love for us, how vast beyond all measure. He should give his holy Son to make a wretch his treasure. How great the pain of searing loss! The Father turns his face away, as wounds which mar the chosen one bring many sons to glory. Hi, Ivy. Behold the man upon the cross, my strength upon his shoulders. Ashamed to hear thy watching voice, about among the scoffers. It was the web that held them there, until it was accomplished. His dying breath has brought me life. I know that it is finished. I will not boast in anything. No gifts, no power, no wisdom. But I will boast in Jesus Christ, his death and resurrection. Why should I gain from his reward? I cannot give an answer, but this I know with all my heart. His wounds have paid my ransom. Why should I gain from his reward? I cannot give an answer, but this I know with all my heart. His wounds have paid my ransom. All right. Thank you, Joyce. That's a great job.
Very beautiful.
Oh, all right.
Very
nice. Very nice. Thank you for agreeing to do that in such short notice.
Very
We
short
told
notice.
her yesterday.
Oh.
What time did we tell you yesterday? Like
Evening.
in the evening. Surprise! Surprise! I have a gift for you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you, Joyce. Wonderful.
Very good.
Okay, so today we're going to be talking about John chapter 18. John chapter 18. Okay, we are still in Jerusalem, right here. Okay, Jerusalem, Judea. Okay, you can call it Israel if you want, but it's technically it's Judea. Okay, all right. So this is the beginning of the betrayal and the arrest of Jesus. Okay. This is right after Jesus' very holy prayer to the Father.
Yes.
I heard myself speak last week, so I'm going to try to enunciate more. I have like this crisp, like English voice, but
And I'm going to try not to sigh or breathe because you've got it all on there. It seemed
I think like
excellent recording.
oh yeah, it's pretty good.
Picked up everything.
iPhone's really no. It didn't. It picked
Because
up.
it was in front of
It
us.
picked up us. I don't think it picked up David
Yeah.
Morton and them very well.
I didn't hear them very well, but I really heard everything we were doing.
I remember David Morton talking a lot more, and it just totally.
Yeah, it was like gone. Where's
It was gone.
David?
Yeah. Where's?
I knew it was his voice, but that was about it.
Yeah.
So much for recording, anyway.
Okay, so yeah, so now the crucifixion process is beginning. Okay, Jesus, the process that is leading him to be crucified under the Roman government is beginning. Okay, it's really hard to top John chapter 17. John chapter 17 is an unbelievably holy and informative prayer that Jesus prays to God the Father, which we talked about last week. Sonny, you were here for that.
Yes.
You three were not.
Yes, I was.
But it's okay. It's okay.
And I got that recording.
We have the recording. But
Every breath.
Joyce said she wasn't able to bring it up on her computer, so some people aren't able to bring it up.
Really?
Yeah, it's
Wow.
too big.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it was pretty long, I think. Yeah.
All right, so this probably won't be as exciting because we are coming from 17, but it's still going to be exciting. Okay. Also, I'm not going to mention every single prophecy that this is fulfilling, because there's a whole bunch.
Yeah.
It's a whole bunch from Psalms and Micah and so many of the Old Testament prophecies. Jesus obviously fulfilled. He's either going to fulfill them in his second coming, or he already fulfilled them in his first coming, especially during the crucifixion process. And there's a whole bunch. And if you want to see I would suggest reading a book, because there's a whole bunch that is being fulfilled at this moment. We will mention a few of them, but not all of them. Okay. Okay. So verse 1. All right. I'll read the first one. Okay. When Jesus had spoken these words, he went out with his disciples across the brook Kidron, where there was a garden, which he and his disciples entered. Okay. All right. So this is Kidron Valley right here. Here's a picture of it. It's kind of nice. Of course, I don't think it was this developed 2,000 years ago, but it's very nice now. This is what it looks like today, Kidron Valley. I'm really proud of myself.
Wow.
I want to boast a little bit because I corrected the Wikipedia page. Because I didn't know you could. I knew you could do that, but I never did it before. And on Wikipedia it said. Kidron is not mentioned in the New Testament. And I said, it's mentioned in John chapter 18, verse 1. But anyway, this is what it looks like. This is what it looks like today. Okay. Okay. Verse 2. Let's see. Sonny, you want to read it?
Now Judas, who betrayed him, also knew the place, because Jesus often met there with his disciples.
All right. And Joyce, verse 3.
So Judas, having procured a band of soldiers and some officers from the chief priests and Pharisees went there with lanterns and torches and weapons.
I don't know. It might be my kind of. I have a kind of a dark sense of humor. It's kind of funny seeing how evil Judas is portrayed in this. Judas is okay. What does this... Judy keeps telling me how much I need to discuss. So, all right. What does this show about Judas's relationship with Jesus? What does this show about Judas's relationship?
Disciples.
Judas's relationship with Jesus?
Seems they are very good friends because they know the secret place they gather together.
That's right.
Yes.
There are very few that knew that place outside the disciples, I would imagine.
Yeah, but what about Judas's relationship with Jesus at this point? Judas.
His follower.
Not right now, right?
Not right now.
Because he left after Jesus is washing their feet, and Jesus sort of reveals Judas as being the one who's going to betray him, and then Judas runs out and he goes to betray him, right? Mm-hmm. So what is Judas's relationship with Jesus?
You mean this moment?
This moment. All right, so enemy, yeah. So Judas is setting a trap for Jesus, and why? Why is he setting a trap for Jesus? He's going to earn a little bit of money, a little bit of silver, right?
Yeah.
I think Judas really obviously never loved Jesus. When Judas realizes that he's not going to get worldly goods from Jesus. Jesus is going to be crucified. Jesus's ministry is a spiritual ministry, not a physical ministry. He's not going to get physical wealth.
Yeah.
Judas, at that point, is just trying to get a little bit of money. And now I think Judas's heart is totally exposed. This is his heart, how much he really loved Jesus from the beginning. All right? He's betraying Jesus. He's got his band of soldiers and officers and the chief priests and the Pharisees, and they're all going to capture Jesus. And obviously, once Jesus is captured, obviously they're going to kill him, right? And Judas is just trying to get a little bit of money, because he never really loved Jesus at all, right? And now he's just getting.
It's like he doesn't want to pretend.
He's not pretending anymore, right? No. He's not pretending anymore. Now he's just getting. He invested heavily in Jesus, and now he's just going to get a little bit of silver from the situation. And of course, the night would have been the best time to capture Jesus, because ever since Jesus raised Lazarus, everyone loved Jesus. Everyone is saying, right, this is the Messiah. The Christ is here. The Christ is here. And so the crowds who all loved Jesus and would have protected Jesus if they had tried to capture him during the day. So they have to do this sneaky thing at night in order to capture Jesus.
Do you know how many soldiers that was?
How much? How much?
200?
Well, they said at least 200,
Yeah,
but
200.
probably 650.
Wow.
It's a tree.
Yeah.
Tree.
Yeah,
Oh.
because the least amount is 200.
Wow.
So they were determined,
Wow, yeah. They were determined.
Obviously.
Yeah.
cover the whole garden.
Yep. All right, Joanna.
Verse 4.
Yeah, verse 4, please.
Then Jesus, knowing all that would happen to him, came forward and said to them, "Who do you seek?" They answered him, "Jesus of Nazareth." Jesus said to them, "I am he." Judas, who betrayed him, was standing with them. When Jesus said to them, "I am he," they drew back and fell to the ground.
All right, so what does this show about Jesus? What does this reveal about Jesus?
Obviously, it's a miracle.
Yes, miracle. Yes.
Well, he's stepping forward. They don't have to harm the disciples in any way.
Okay.
Include them in the arrest.
Okay.
He acknowledges to them who he is, and he says, "I am." The he is added on. That's not really in the.
Yeah. He's not there.
Yeah,
He-
that's added on because they fall because he says, "I am" to them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because of the translations we need to add he after
Yeah.
I'm he.
Yeah.
And actually, it's I
They-
am.
Yeah, they ate.
Let me see what the New American Standard Bible says.
Yeah, translation. Yeah, it's I am.
The writers added that on later.
Just as like Jesus answered the opponents, like talking about Abraham and since Abraham before Abraham I am. That shows his God. It's just not a human being.
Okay. All right. Obviously, Jesus is God, and and obviously, God reveals His official name to Moses during the Exodus, and his name is I am, or Hayah or Yahweh. That is his proper name, and God reveals his name to the world, and that is when he destroys Egypt with all the plagues, and he is revealing himself, his true nature. Okay,
Yes.
And then. So, obviously, here you see that Jesus is God. He knows everything. He's not surprised by any of this that's going on. Obviously, God has ordained all of this to take place. Every single word that's said, every single emotion, action that everyone is doing at this time. God has ordained this before He created the world. Okay, everything is sovereignly under Christ's control, and He is God. He knows everything. Okay, nothing surprises Him. He is always in total control over every situation. Okay,
Yes.
when He says "I am" or "I am He," they fall back onto the ground. Okay, and this does remind me a lot of Jesus' death. Okay, when Jesus is not killed. Okay, at some point during His crucifixion, He decides to die. He's in total control over the situation, and He's in control here. The soldiers might all be around Him,
Yeah.
but Jesus is not. Jesus is giving Himself up. He is not overwhelmed by force. Okay, He is in total control, and He's showing them He's control. But it is a willingness to be crucified, to obey the Father, to die for the church, for the sins of the church. Okay, it is Jesus' total.
You know, it seems to me like, okay, they asked Jesus, knowing in their hearts, came forth. For whom are you looking? Okay, and then he answered, Jesus of Nazareth.
Yeah.
And then, I am He. Okay, I am.
I am.
And then Jesus, okay, when I am He, then they fall to the ground. And then he asks them again, for whom are you looking? While they're on the ground. And they say, Jesus of Nazareth. It's almost like He's doing the ordering.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I mean? He's saying,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
they're just replying.
He's totally in control.
They're replying to
Jo-
Him, and He's doing all the ordering. And they're the soldiers
Jo-
and the chief priests.
John does that. That's how John, and that's probably how.
Switch roles
That's
completely.
probably how it actually happens. But John makes sure to emphasize that, like
Yeah.
Jesus is in total control
Because
over
I don't
all these
remember that from
situations.
the other Gospels.
Yeah.
They showed it that clearly.
I noticed maybe this is sometimes similar to Isaiah or similar to Peter made Jesus come from, oh, depart from me, I'm a sinful God.
Uh-huh.
So he does this footing before Jesus. So we, a human being, when God shows His glory and shows how good he is, we lose our footing before Him.
Mhm.
So that's why, I am, I will go back.
So you think?
Where is Joyce? I am. He's still sick.
Okay, and I think another thing I forgot to mention this about Judas. How does Judas point out who Jesus is? What does he do?
You mean the kiss?
He kiss.
Yeah.
Isn't that the ultimate hypocrisy?
Yes.
Judas never has a real love for Jesus. And his hypocrisy is climaxed when he points out who it is by kissing him.
Yeah.
And kissing is not a homosexual thing at this time. Obviously, it's a sign of affection. We don't really do after the homosexual revolution in the United States and in the West. Guys don't really want to do any kind of affection toward each other because they don't want.
Is that why they stopped doing?
They don't want to. They don't really want to have people think that they're gay or anything like that.
My sister's family, because they're Colombian, they're always like grabbing each other,
Oh yeah.
kissing and all.
No. Like I knew Africans. I met
South
Africans,
Americans are-
and they will.
Yeah. It's for American.
You'll have friends with an African, and he will put his hand on your thigh, upper thigh, and it's just a sign of intimacy. It's just like I love you, like this. And it's not a gay thing. It's not a gay. They hate homosexuality. Well, they're very repulsed by homosexuality, but they are very intimate. And I think, really, we think that homosexuality is a sign of love. It's a sign of toleration, but it actually destroys the intimacy between same-sex. Two friends, they don't really want to be too close. They don't want to go out have dinner together because, well, people might think they're homosexual. And but let's don't go there. We're not going there. We're John 18. But yeah. Judas betrays the ultimate act of hypocrisy. Is an affectionate kiss, which of course Judas doesn't have that affection for him.
Yeah.
It's just his signal to say, this is the person for you to capture. And I don't think Judas really cares if he kills them or not, but he gets his silver. And he doesn't care the fact that Jesus will die.
Regret after.
Huh?
Judas regret. He hang.
He will regret, yes.
No,
He-
no, you
Why
won't
would he?
regret.
If
Yeah,
he didn't
it's-
love Jesus.
There's guilt, I think.
I think
He's regret, but he's not confessed his sin.
it's
Yeah.
wordly sorrow.
We have a conscience. And so a conscience can overwhelm, like you can be haunted by a conscience. I don't know that I haven't prepared for that yet. That's going to be a lot more. We don't know what it is. It's definitely.
We'll analyze
It's
that
not-
when he
not-
kills
it's not
himself,
textbook.
Yeah.
right? We'll see whether he really.
Yeah, he does kill himself, and yeah,
Then
we'll,
we can analyze.
yeah, we'll analyze that later. Okay, so verse
Early.
7. Verse 7. Who is it? My turn or is it Ivy's turn? All right.
7. So he asked them again, whom do you seek? And they said, Jesus of Nazareth. Jesus answered, I told you that I am he. So if you seek me, let this man go. This was to fulfill the word that he had spoken. Of those whom you gave me, I have lost not one. Then Simon Peter.
All right. That's enough. Thanks, Ivy. I appreciate it. I do want to talk about verses 7 through 9. And as Sunny was explaining, Jesus is always in total control over the situation. And now he's shown that he has power. Okay, he can just make them all fall down, and now Jesus really demands protection of his disciples. Now Jesus is willingly giving himself up because it's the God the Father's will. It's not that they're overpowering him. They're making Jesus do what he doesn't want to do. He is willingly giving himself up like a lamb led to the slaughter. But he demands protection of the disciples, okay? And this, of course, fulfills what he promised in his prayer to the Father in John chapter 17 that we read last week, okay?
You know what would be really neat
What?
if this weren't tragic? You know, if you tried to make this like a neat situation. That Jesus answered, I am, right? And then
Yeah.
they fall down again, okay?
Mhm.
And then he says, this was to fulfill the word that he had spoken. I did not lose a single one of those whom you
Yeah.
gave me. Okay, and then he just says, I am, and keeps walking, and they keep staying on the ground.
That would have been nice, yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
Just-
that would have been nice.
I mean, he could have come back, but he just, I am, and I am like bowling pins.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I could see that as a video
Yeah,
game. You know,
yeah.
to just,
Oh, don't. Yeah, I'm definitely a guy. I would love.
I mean,
that.
just
Yeah.
to, you know,
Yeah.
yeah. I
Yeah.
am.
Yep.
Different zaps, different reaction. What do you think, Thomas?
Well, I
Can you
mean,
make a video of that? And we
the
can-
guy in me obviously loves, the
Yeah.
Marvel powers and all
Yeah,
that stuff.
just I am. 2 words. That's all.
Like, I think Pastor Kim is going to get frustrated with because he's like, what is your spiritual gift? I'm like, X-ray vision, and I'm like, electricity coming out of my fingers, and like, that is Marvel. That is not.
Who says
Holy
that?
Spirit.
Who has electricity come out of their fingers?
I guess the Emperor in Star Wars. I don't know.
Okay.
Or I don't know. There's
Oh.
X-Men. I don't know.
I never watched Star
X-Men.
Wars
X-Men or something like
or
that.
X-Men. Only
Yeah.
Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman. Oh,
The new Wonder Woman.
okay.
That's the only hero I've watched. Even Batman, my son watched those. I wasn't
So
interested.
you didn't want that.
No.
Oh,
Yeah.
You didn't watch
I am.
You didn't watch Batman?
No.
Please leave. Please leave.
Oh, he tried so much to get me to see the one that won the Academy Award.
I'm gonna try to not. I'm gonna.
Who's the Joker?
I'm gonna try.
Yeah, he wanted me to see Joker so bad. He
I'm
tried
gonna-
to trick me many times.
I'm gonna try to the Joker. Is
Joker,
is
the
that
one who
out
got the
yet?
Academy Award. Remember?
The Dark Knight? Is that the Dark
Yeah,
Knight?
I said no way. Look at that face.
I'm going to try not to watch Joker.
He's constantly lining me the trailer.
You know,
Oh.
you know the guy, the actor there's a new Joker movie coming out. The Joker.
Oh no, really?
And the actor in that was actually in a Christian cult in South Carolina, in California, called the Children of God cult, and he grew up in the Children of God cult. And it's a very terrible cult.
Oh my
It's a really terrible cult.
God.
And so when you see him, and he's always disturbed in every single role he's
so
in.
he'll fit in other words.
And so he's always disturbed. I don't think he has to act very much because he was in a terrible
fits the
cult.
part- the part.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
to
that's horrible.
And
They're using his dilemma
yeah,
to make bucks.
yeah. Well, we need to move on. We need
So
to move
many
on.
Okay, sorry.
No, it's fine. Then Simon Peter, having a sword, drew it and struck the high priest's servant and cut off his right ear. The servant's name was Malchus. Okay, Malchus. Okay.
Do you know
So
what that proves?
that Malchus doesn't like to listen.
No, that Peter is. I think he was trying to get his head right,
Yeah,
but he got
maybe.
his ear instead.
Maybe. Yeah.
Peter
Yeah.
was
Trying to
still
kill
sleepy.
Trying to kill them.
He was still sleepy.
He's still sleeping. Oh, that's funny.
Do you agree?
That's
I
really
don't know.
cute. That's really
That's
cute.
what I came up one day in class.
What's really cute?
My student said, "Why did he do that?" I said, "He was still sleepy because he didn't
Are you
stay up
sure?
with
Are you
Jesus."
sure?
No, it came out of my mind. It came out of my mind because they asked me.
Well, Peter.
Otherwise, he would have.
Peter is the chief apostle, right?
That's right.
He's the leader of the apostles. He was also a zealot. A zealot is people who Rome had pretty much had control over Judea, and so Rome had this system of. And it's basically it's basically a fascist system. Okay, Rome they would conquer your country. Okay, and so you decide, okay, we're going to absorb you like the Borg in Star Trek. We're going to absorb you into the Roman Empire. If you say yes, then join the party.
Just be taxed to death.
Join the party.
Taxes.
Probably.
Rome was into taxes.
If you said no, we're going to pummel you into the ground, destroy you, and
Yeah.
take all your citizens, kill all the men, and take everyone else as slaves and all this stuff. But and that was the choice, and
That
so
was the great decision.
obviously Judea was like, okay, we'll just play along, and but obviously Peter and a lot of other zealots, they were not happy with the fact that Judea was under the control of a pagan nation, Rome, and he is a zealot. Okay, I think Peter has a sincere but exaggerated love and loyalty to Jesus.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's out of the love.
Well, zealots are like that.
yeah, and
But they do kill. I
He
mean,
want to protect
they don't
Jesus.
mutilate body parts. They kill.
yeah.
Protect
Usually.
Jesus and
Yeah.
want to kill them all.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And doesn't care.
It was nice that he mentioned his name, right?
Malchus?
Malchus. Yeah.
Malchus. It means it's truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a person named Truth.
That's right.
Oh,
Even though he's a
yeah.
slave,
Yeah.
you
We-
still
we
mention
have
his
the
name.
eyewitness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
It's not the legend.
That's right. Get those details in there.
detail.
Right ear,
Yeah.
Malchus. And then Jesus heals him. Oh,
Yeah.
very interesting.
And it's a chaos there. They still know it's right here. Right here. Which ear is
Isn't that something? The right ear, not the left ear, the right ear. And his name is
Yeah,
Malchus.
Detail.
Yeah, it's right.
Okay.
Okay.
Verse 11. Do you want to say?
Sorry, but I think it try to remind us we don't need to use power or the sword or the knife or weapons to create the Christian kingdom.
No, it's-
yeah. We need to use the spiritual gifts,
Yeah.
the spiritual power, and the gospel.
Jesus' kingdom is not of the world, right?
Yeah.
And so Jesus is about to make that famous teaching, and Peter, the chief apostle, is trying to cut people's heads off, right? And thankfully he was sleepy, right?
Yeah, I think he was sleeping. Or he shouldn't have missed. Yeah.
Because you sleep, you don't have that kind of power.
No, you don't.
But I
You're
think-
still.
You know, I think he just want to warm. You know, he didn't kill him. He just
Oh.
cut his
Maybe.
ear.
Maybe.
Yeah, just
Maybe.
want to warm him.
Really?
Maybe.
Yeah.
This is this is a very
Use the gun and come here.
Yeah, just like a gun.
I don't want to
didn't-
shoot.
Just just shoot his
Yeah.
leg. You know, it's a kind
Okay.
of warm. Yeah.
Okay.
I can kill you. I just didn't. I just don't want to.
Yeah, that's an
Yeah,
idea.
yeah.
Like pepper
maybe,
spray, right?
maybe,
Yeah.
maybe.
I just want to. He said,
Okay.
I have ability to protect Jesus.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Yes,
I
that's
just-
his job.
Right.
Maybe,
Oh, he
maybe.
felt anyway, right?
Yeah, I think he had. I think Peter really did have a real loyalty to Jesus,
Yeah.
and it's a
Yeah.
real.
He
And,
loved him. He loved Jesus.
he, although he's about to betray him, I think we're going to see that he still loves Jesus. All right, let's get to verse 11.
Okay.
All right, Sonny. So Jesus.
Sunny, your turn.
So the soldiers. I thought we were the soldiers.
What verse?
11?
11.
Jesus.
Jesus said to Peter, "Put your sword back into its sheath. Am I not to drink the cup that the Father has given me?"
Yeah. And Jesus is about to say that his kingdom is not of the world, and so Peter is going to really ruin Jesus's teaching to Pilate if he's cutting people's heads off. Okay,
Yes.
but what is this a reference to? All right.
The cup from
The cup the Father has given me. What is that a reference to?
from the prayer and the agony in the
Right.
Garden of Gethsemane.
Right. Matthew 26:39. And going a little further, he fell on his face and prayed, saying, "My Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as you will." Okay. Jesus is going to have to, this is a cup that Jesus doesn't really want to drink.
Yeah.
He does not want to be humiliated. He does not want to have separation from God. He does not want the God to see him as sin and allow him, give him up for execution. But he drinks the cup, for our redemption, right?
Yes. Yes,
Alright.
it's for us.
Yeah. I don't really like some movies that exaggerate the physical pain that Jesus experienced on the cross. I mean, like I don't know.
Like the Passion.
Maybe. Or he's getting the crap kicked out of him and he's all bloody and it hurt so much. Like, I do think that the pain was, because, God, oh, hey.
I'm gonna take this from you guys.
What? You're gonna.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I take back my applause. I thought we were gonna have a new.
My cheers.
Oh,
Sorry to disappoint you.
there's 3 more
We were
chairs.
just talking about the cup
You chair thief.
that Jesus had to endure.
Oh my gosh. Well, we all have our cups to drink.
We all
don't
have our cups. Jesus had his, we have ours. I know, I thought he was going to sit down. And I said, oh, we don't have anything to give him. Oh my God.
Well, that's my disappointment for the week, isn't it?
That's
Like,
why I said,
Pastor Kim's
that's
gonna.
why I said the cup. I thought, okay, I'll talk about the cup
I
then.
think he might say surprise.
Yeah, I'm going to sit down.
Although it might be good that he didn't sit down, because then everyone here, I think, would say, "Okay, can we just let Pastor Kim finish?" Okay, Thomas,
No.
Thomas, you're done. Could you give him your notes? And
I just won't say what comes out of my head. Stick to the Bible.
Yeah. Anyway. So, Jesus
And I
and God,
have to
they
drink
love
the cup.
glory. They create the whole universe, and they create witnesses to their glory, okay? Angels and the redeemed church are witnesses to their glory. Jesus is going to be humiliated. The Roman crucifixion was a way to humiliate those who were against the power of Rome. Okay, that crucifixion was just, they destroyed you. Okay, you're just beaten to death. You're dying before you're even crucified from the scourging. You've got blood and meat hanging out of all of your body. You're just totally destroyed. You might not survive even if you're not crucified, and then you're taken to be crucified in front of everyone, hanging and dying on a cross for people to pass by. It is just a totally crushing, humiliating, agonizing experience. And Jesus is going to have to endure that humiliation of the God who, Jesus created the whole world. And he's going to have to look like a common thief executed by Rome from crucifixion. And, of course, God, the Father, abandons him to be crucified. Jesus is about to be punched for the first time. God, the Father, just says, I'm abandoning him to be crucified, to be beaten up, and it's all. That's probably the worst thing.
that's the worst.
That's the worst thing is God the Father washing his hands of Jesus. Well, he's a criminal now. He deserves this, and anyway. So next would be verse 12. I think Joyce. I think it's your turn.
Okay.
Yep.
Then the detachment of the soldiers with the where are?
Verse 12.
So band of soldiers and their captain and the officers of the Jews arrested Jesus and bound him.
Okay, do you want to have verse 13, please?
First, they led him to Annas, who was the father-in-law of Caiaphas, who was high priest that year.
All right, so Annas was the father-in-law of Caiaphas, the high priest, okay? All right, so who was the first high priest in Exodus? Who was the first high priest? It was not Moses, it was who?
Aaron.
Aaron was the first high priest.
No, the first is Melchizedek.
Oh, well, that's...
Yes.
Okay, well, we're not going to go there. We're not going to go there because
Why not?
the Jews argue about this. So they're going to like...
What is it to argue about?
Because Melchizedek.
Well, there wasn't a Holy of Holies until Aaron, right? Well, we're going to debate what that is. No. I mean, some people say Enoch was the first high
Oh
priest.
yeah, I heard that,
So-
but you don't believe that.
All right. I'm talking about the first high priest that was allowed to go inside the Holy of Holies and make atonement for Israel every
Okay,
year. Okay,
yeah.
like from Leviticus. Okay?
Okay.
So we can debate other things,
Let's
but
debate another time.
you win.
I spent 2 classes on Melchizedek. ready for you.
Maybe we should have maybe you could lead a Finding Grace and talk about it because I would be interested to hear about it. All right, but the high priest was the only one allowed going into the special Holy of Holies in the tabernacle and the temple. And they made atonement every year on the Day of Atonement, okay? This is mentioned in the middle of Leviticus 16, Leviticus 17, okay?
Yeah.
And that is when that is when the high priest makes atonement for all of Israel, okay? All of this points to Jesus as being the one who atones for the sins of the church, obviously. We all know that now. We all know that now, okay? They didn't know that at the time, but... Okay, this is hugely important. Okay, so
Yes.
do you know what it is? Do you know what I'm going to say?
No.
Oh, okay.
What?
All right, so this is hugely important. I didn't know if you already knew what I was going to say. Okay, who was the high priest at this time? Who was the high priest?
Caiaphas was the
Caiaphas.
high priest because he was appointed by the Romans.
Caiaphas was the official high priest.
Yes.
But Annas, you already
Was
know? Yeah, you already know.
The people, yeah.
Annas was the unofficial, more popular
Yes.
high priest. Okay, Annas, who was the father-in-law of Caiaphas, had been the high priest from 86 to 15, but the Romans had removed him from power. However, although he did not officially have power, he still had most of the political power from the people who still consider him the true high priest.
That's
okay?
right.
So if you can imagine, let's say China takes over Taiwan, and they remove and they remove Peter Kim as being the pastor, and they put in
No way.
someone else, okay? And they say
Had to be a zealot.
and they put in someone who loves China, okay? Someone who's a pro-China person. And so we all have to pretend like the new person
No, we
is
cut off ears.
yeah. We all have to pretend like
I'm going to cut off this Xi Jinping's
we all have to pretend like, oh yeah, this is the new pastor, but behind the scenes, under the surface,
Yeah.
Peter Kim's still the real
He's still
pastor,
the real
okay?
pastor.
So it's that kind of thing, okay? So that is the kind of thing that is taking place right now.
And do you know how many sons he had that became high priest?
All right, there's a lot of history behind this. I should have learned it probably.
Five?
No, okay, wow.
Yeah, that's a lot.
There's a lot of history that goes on, especially if you
Annas
read.
is a very interesting character.
If you read Josephus is really good because Josephus is a Jew that is writing for the Romans, being paid by the Romans,
Whoa.
and he talks about a lot of this stuff,
I didn't know that.
and he agrees with the biblical account, although he's writing on a different side. And there's actually the seminary that's really close to us in Gangwon. They have an English version of Josephus. I would suggest you reading it. Not the first half. The first half is all
Really?
like Old Testament stuff. But the second half is they have a whole gospel-sized scroll just on Herod.
Whoa.
You know, Herod that's talked about almost nothingly, who kills all the babies.
Yes. Yeah.
He talks a lot about Herod. It's very interesting, and they talk about a lot of these people, Pilate and all these people. Josephus is one of the. We'll talk about him.
I don't know. I just know he's the one who's always brought up every time they talk about some
Yeah,
some
we'll
figure. or
we'll
something.
talk about him at some point.
Okay.
It's
Wow.
definitely
I
something very very
didn't even
interesting.
know that much about him.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, so in the chapter, that is why, because I was reading this yesterday, and I was really confused because I was like, why is Jesus taken to Annas, and Annas is considered the high priest? And then they mention almost nothing of Caiaphas.
Yeah.
And they mentioned the whole time is him and Annas, and I was totally confused. Actually, Judy was the one that showed me the website that kind of explained everything.
Yeah.
I was telling her, I was like, I am confused. What's going on here?
Yeah, he was behind everything.
Right.
Actually, I just thought of something. He's the one with all the merchandise in the temple court, and Jesus got upset and knocked everything over, and everything, especially the animals and all that.
Yeah.
All that money went to him.
Yeah, he was.
He was in charge of all the money.
So you can tell why he does it.
corruption.
Yeah, it was dirty business.
So
It was
he
really
bribed
dirty
to
business.
get all these
No,
sons and everybody.
you're right about that.
and
You're right about
everything.
that.
He's a very interesting character. Very interesting.
All right. Who is who's next? I think Ivy, verse 14.
13.
Right here.
Okay.
14. It was Caiaphas who
Where are we?
had advised the Jews that it would be expected that one man should die for the people.
All right.
Oh.
So when did Caiaphas give this advice? When did Caiaphas give this advice?
This is after Lazarus.
Yeah, he raised Lazarus.
And they had a meeting of all the religious leaders,
Right.
because they had to do something about Jesus
Yeah, yeah.
being popular,
Right.
and taking their position.
Wow, Sonny's taking all of my thunder.
I'm
no,
sorry.
it's good. It's good. You know, it's good that you're taking my thunder.
I could just see them
I'm happy.
getting together, like, okay.
Well, you're
somebody's gonna,
you're a small group leader, so you should.
Yeah.
I mean,
I thought you said
you-
Caiaphas told the Jewish leaders that Jesus is taking away my thunder.
oh no, he didn't say that. No, I'm sorry. No, like no, Sonny's right about everything. This was after Jesus raised Lazarus. Jesus becomes insanely popular.
Yes.
And then Caiaphas is worried because Caiaphas is thinking Judea is going to be divided.
Yeah.
And they're going to be divided, and then the Romans are going to say, hey, they're divided, and they're going to easily conquer them, okay?
Yes.
And
Yes.
so,
Loses power.
so Lazarus says, it's more expedient for one man should die for the people, but of
Caiaphas.
course, because he's the high priest,
Yes.
he's actually prophesying.
Yes.
And has a double meaning that Jesus
Yeah,
would die
it
for
has
sinners,
hidden
right?
meaning in the sentence.
Yeah.
That's right. All right, verse 15, my turn. Simon Peter followed Jesus, and so did another disciple. Since that disciple was known to the high priest, he entered with Jesus into the courtyard of the high priest. Okay, what does this reveal about Peter's relationship with Jesus?
That he's not going to give up following
Yeah,
him.
we all. I mean, yeah.
He's going to follow him to the end.
He, you know, we.
Want to know what will happen
Maybe he's looking for
next.
another opportunity. Who
Yeah.
knows?
Yeah,
We'll
yeah.
have-
I missed the first time.
Yeah,
The next time,
there's another year.
there's always another year. Yeah.
Maybe I really will get the head this
I
time.
have two swords.
Yeah, and yeah. Well, you know, if Peter doesn't.
Because he's the only one.
When
the others are all gone.
Peter does really have a lot of loyalty and a lot of
Yeah.
courage.
Yeah, courage, yeah.
There's a lot of courage. We think of Peter betraying
Denying,
Jesus.
Denying.
Yeah,
Not betraying. Denying.
Denying Jesus.
Very
You know,
true.
Jesus gets captured, and Peter goes,
Oh.
"Oh, look at this!"
Oh.
Sonda.
Wow.
送的
성다.
真的吗？
Yeah.
可是今天不是
Oh,
母亲节，
yum.
今天不是母亲节。
If, for example,
他们他们
you guys don't want to eat it now, Thomas.
Oh,
Sure.
there's only one
Take a
piece. There's only one piece.
Oh, okay, that's okay.
There's only one
All right,
piece.
Thomas, it's yours. Oh,
Another back-to-back.
Thomas.
Thank you, David.
Bye, bye, David. Bye, David.
Okay.
You will sit down and
Believe you, Thomas.
You should never
No,
believe.
doubting Thomas.
You should
Don't
never.
believe.
You should never believe me when it comes to food.
Okay.
That's why Joyce doesn't believe me.
No, I was just going. Wow. Okay, I really believe you.
All right, so when Jesus is captured, Peter doesn't go "Ah!" and run away, drop his sword, drop his cloak and run away. His first action is to follow Jesus. And he even goes to the courtyard. He's following Jesus. I don't know what he's trying to do. Maybe he's going to look for an opportunity to rescue him, or maybe he is just wanting to be a witness.
What's the result?
Well, he wants to be a witness. He wants to see what the result, what's going to happen. He wants to be the one.
Curious.
He wants to be the one that can
Curious,
say,
okay.
"This is what happened," right? That's right, Ivy. All right.
it's just love moment. You don't do anything, but you want to see what happens.
Right.
You want to show your
So
curiosity.
I don't really think Peter is a coward here. He's actually very courageous.
Oh.
And so it's different than a lot of people think he
I told you he was just sleepy.
he was very sleepy before. And he wouldn't have
I really believe
he
it.
probably wouldn't have denied Jesus but it got late, like 12, 1, and he got sleepy again.
No.
Well, how far can this?
No, I don't buy it. Dan. I don't buy it. Dan.
How far can this?
He's
Can this?
following him.
You've introduced
Sleepy.
you've introduced
you don't sleepwalk while you're following.
You've introduced a new principle of hermeneutics into Bible interpretation.
It's just maybe it doesn't know how to do it. Just
Like if it was like 3:00 during the day, are you a follower of Jesus? Yes, I am. But like it's 12 o'clock and he just doesn't want to deal with it.
I don't know what to do.
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
No.
I can come from
No
my
sale.
heart.
No
He's-
sale, Thomas.
He's just thinking about that bed. No, he's
No
not.
sale.
No,
How
okay.
many beds?
Yeah, maybe.
They slept in the garden.
Oh yeah.
Ground.
It's not likely who the other disciple is. Maybe this is someone who's not an apostle, just another disciple who loves
I
Jesus.
thought it was John.
Yeah, it's John.
No,
Is it?
I
Yeah.
didn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you know?
John.
How do you know?
I didn't know. I just
Yeah, that's John. Mm-hmm. Because John.
How do you know?
Because John knows the high priest.
I'm not sure.
He's the one who gets Peter to the door there, and then the servant
But
girl.
I'm sure there's John.
Yeah,
Alright,
yeah.
well-
I'm
Yeah.
sure that John always
Yeah,
wanted
yeah,
the
yeah.
disciple that
Yeah,
Jesus
yeah.
loved is
Yeah.
referring to himself.
Yeah.
But the other disciple, I don't know if that's what
You
he's
know,
referring
John
to
has
himself.
come to the end.
Yeah, John.
Mother,
Oh yeah.
John, mother.
He was
Because he's known to the high priest. That's John.
All right. Well.
Yeah.
All right. So now we got that taken care of. Is it my turn next? Whose turn is
Oh, I
it?
don't know.
Who read last?
Your turn.
Is it my turn?
I don't know.
Sonny, is it your turn?
I don't know. Okay, Simon Peter.
Oh no, it was my.
I don't
Oh,
know
sorry,
who it
my
is.
turn was last. Okay, it's your turn.
Okay,
Verse
Simon
16.
Peter and another disciple. Is that right? Am I right, babe?
Peter stood outside.
Simon Peter and another disciple followed Jesus. Since that disciple was known to the high priest,
It's a different
he went with Jesus into the courtyard of the high priest. But Peter was standing outside at the gate. So the other disciple, who was known to the high priest, went out, spoke to the woman who guarded the gate, and brought Peter in. Oh, there it is. Okay, that's what I was
Alright.
saying.
And Joyce,
Praise the
the
Lord.
servant girl.
servant girl at the door said to Peter, "You also are not one of his man's disciple, are you?" He said, "I'm not."
Yeah.
Alright, so
Oh.
Peter denies Jesus. Okay, this is his first denial.
Yeah.
Peter is a chief apostle. Right, it's very terrible. He's denying that Jesus, and he's lying. You know,
Yeah.
he's lying. I mean, this is apostle. They're gonna write the New Testament. They're gonna help produce the New Testament, and he's lying. It's not very good.
Yeah.
And he's Jesus' number 2. He's the chief apostle.
Yeah.
Chief apostle, the leader of the apostles, and he's denying that he is a disciple of Jesus. And does this break any of Jesus' teachings? Matthew 10:33.
Oh.
But whoever denies me before men,
I will
deny
them
before my Father who is in
Yeah.
heaven. Okay,
Oh, yeah.
he is.
Yeah.
But technically, she's a woman. I know he found
Well,
a
a
loophole.
servant girl.
It's a loophole, right? No, I'm
Servant
joking.
girl,
I'm joking.
right?
No,
Is that what, in your?
yeah, it's a servant girl. I'm
It's
being
not here, but I know.
I'm being humorous.
She was just a little girl.
Yeah.
A little girl. And he was-
Well, no, but the girl
But she
the girl
knew-
has a pretty
She knew better. She knew him.
the girl has a pretty big responsibility. She's evaluating people coming in
That's
and out.
right. She knows.
So I don't know if like it's a little girl.
That Peter have the courage to use the sword, but you don't have the courage to answer a little girl.
Yeah, I don't. How little is she? Like, wait, let's look at what
They
she.
said 16.
Where do you see 16?
I don't know where I get these. You know, I read things.
That's not good.
Put it
All
together.
right, don't tell me.
Yeah.
I don't know where I get these things. Like, don't say that. You are revealing
I don't know
ignorance.
where I get these things. It's 22 years of reading the Bible. I don't know.
Oh, okay. Well,
Where they come from.
osmosis. Okay.
And
All
then-
right. So.
No osmosis.
All right. So this girl, servant girl, kept watch at the door and brought people. This is a security person. So I mean, it's a girl. It's not a woman. I wonder if it's a servant girl.
Yeah,
Maybe it's a
servant-
servant girl because she's not married. I don't know.
Well-
my version says spoke to the girl on duty.
Yeah, maybe.
So I think it just emphasizes she's young.
Yeah.
She's
She
young,
might be
yes.
young.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
But I think she's old enough to have a huge responsibility. She's looking at. She determines who goes in and out of the high priest's courtyard, right?
Yeah.
That's you're not going to give that to some little. Oh, you're not going to give that to your young daughter as something to do. You're going to give. You're going to. That's a position of great
sometimes they got married
responsibility.
at 14 and 15, so 16 would be like up there in age.
Well, yeah, I do agree
Yeah.
that I do agree that.
16, 17.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I accepted it, because they get married.
well, maybe.
Okay, anyway.
All right, well, we've gotten
It's
a
not
lot.
in the Bible.
We've gotten a lot of
Not
evidences.
in the Bible. Not in the Bible. Yeah, okay.
yeah.
All right.
It's okay. It's okay.
All right. So, Peter is trying to get close to Jesus,
Yeah.
and so you can see his denial, but it's also along with love and loyalty that he's even risking getting this close to begin with.
Yeah.
So it is, but it is a very sad thing, right? All right, verses
Yeah.
18, Joanna.
Now the servants and officers had made a charcoal fire because it was cold, and they were standing and warming themselves. Peter also was with them, standing and warming himself.
All right, so Peter is safe now. Okay, he's
And
getting
warm.
warmed by the fire. You know, he's avoided the first revelation, and so he lied, and so now he's comfortable.
No, he's a liar.
Yeah, unfortunately. All right, Ivy, verse
Poor
19.
Peter.
The high priest then questioned Jesus about his disciples and his teaching.
Yep, disciples and teaching. Okay, Jesus. And I want to read a lot of this because a lot of this is just straightforward.
Okay.
Jesus answered him, I have spoken openly to the world. I have always taught in synagogues and in the temple where all Jews come together. I have said nothing in secret. Why do you ask me? Ask those who have heard me what I said to them, they know what I said. Okay, so Jesus is not. He's not double talking. You know,
No.
he's full of integrity. I tell everyone the same way. He doesn't tell some people one thing and other people another thing. He tells everyone the same message. You know, there's no secret.
In public, not
Yeah,
in
in
secret.
public, no.
Yes.
Yeah. There's no secret, stuff. Okay. When he had said these things, one of the officers standing by struck Jesus with his hand, saying, "Is that how you answer the high priest?" Okay, this is the first time Jesus is struck.
Yeah.
Okay, he is struck by the high priest, and yes, this is
Well, one of the guards, not the high priest. He wouldn't lower himself to do that.
Yeah, and this is what is the term? This fulfills Malachi or Micah or something like that. Like I said, we're not going to go through every time that Jesus fulfills something from the Old Testament. This is one of them. And this is part of God the Father removing his protection. Okay, he's allowing Jesus to be tried and to be judged and executed as if he is a sinner. Okay, and so Jesus is just hit. Okay, Jesus answered him, "If what I said is wrong, bear witness about the wrong. But if what I said is right, why do you strike me?" Okay, so Jesus is saying, I'm innocent, basically, and where am I wrong? What did I do wrong? And so, they hit him anyway because he's not going along with the agenda. Annas then sent him bound to Caiaphas, the high priest, which is not talked about very much at all because Caiaphas was not.
That's it.
Is not very relevant, right?
Yeah.
He's not the main guy. Okay, it actually talks very little about Caiaphas. I'm sure on every, when I was in college, I used to look at these. On every atheist website and the Bible contradicts itself website, this is front and center, when Constantine was writing the Bible in the 4th century, he doesn't even remember if it's Caiaphas or Annas. Actually, the reality is, whoever wrote John really knew the political situation at the time. Like, if you're writing this later in the 3rd or the 4th century, you're going to miss this. Okay, this is the person who wrote this had a very close awareness of the political situation that was going on in Judea at this time. So this is obviously it's not a contradiction of the Bible whatsoever. The reality is this shows the reliability of the Bible, okay? And so it might be a verse that some people do struggle with, but they struggle because they're ignorant. It's because the person who's reading it is ignorant, not because there's anything wrong with the Bible, okay? All right.
So what is it that they contest?
Because there might be someone who is wondering why Caiaphas and Annas are both. Because because you think Caiaphas is the high priest. But the entire time, Annas is the one who's got all the power.
That's right.
Who's questioning Jesus. Yeah. And then Caiaphas, there's no mentioning of even going. It's just like, well, Annas is the real high priest. And so that's it. For a lot of people that might be stumbling, they might think, well, did the person who wrote John, did they really know what was going on? But the reality is that the writer of John had a very close awareness of what's going on.
Yes.
That
because none of the others right.
Because if they wrote 100 years later, they might just say, well, it's Caiaphas.
Yeah.
But little things like this that the Bible does show that it was written by someone who lived in that generation. Yeah. And obviously John was a disciple. He knows everything that's going on. And obviously this is written by John. We believe that. But if you talk to someone in the street, if you talk to someone who graduated from college, this is a good place to go to show them, no, actually, because I was taught when I went to college, I took New Testament when I was in college. And it was very hostile to the Bible. It was just, they tried to destroy the Bible. Really? But my point is that when you study the Bible, and you don't know the history and you don't understand the Bible, you might read something that you don't really understand, and it might make you have doubts of God's word, about God's scripture. But when you really examine it, when you compare it to the best history at the time, you realize, wow, the Bible actually knows what it's talking about. Okay, and we know that. And not only do we know that this is written by John, but this is written by God through the power of the Holy Spirit, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Amen.
And of course, Jesus, like we said, he didn't do anything wrong. He was just popular. His crime is that people thought that he was Christ. They thought he was the Messiah, which he was. Okay, so
And of course, Peter understood that too, but not the way Jesus wanted him to understand it.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm wondering. I'm hoping this will kind of
Where are we at?
help me organize it. Ivy's looking at me like, "Why are you doing that with your paper?"
Why
I'm not making a spaceship. I promise. All right. Anyway. All right, Sonny. Let's. Okay, this is Peter denies Jesus again. So verse 25.
25. Now Simon Peter was standing and warming himself. They asked him, "You are not also one of his disciples, are you?" He denied it and said, "I am not." One of the slaves of the high priest, a relative of the man whose ear Peter had cut off, asked,
You mentioned it.
"Did I not see you in the garden with him?" Again, Peter
All right, stop.
denied
Okay,
it.
okay.
And at that moment, the cock crowed.
All right. Well, that's fine. But that goes to 27 as well. Yeah. So aggression doesn't always help us, right? Aggression, sometimes it gives you a short-term joy, like I got back at that person, but it creates a long-term problem.
People notice you.
And so, you get noticed. Sorry,
You
Peter.
get noticed.
You thought you were just being loyal to Jesus. In reality,
We know who you
now
did it to.
the family member of the person of ear you cut off recognized you because he intimately, who's the one that cut off my,
Yeah.
And of course, Peter denies Jesus again, and then he denies Jesus for the third time. Third time in verse 27. And then the rooster crows, thus fulfilling Jesus' prophecy. And this is John chapter 13, verse 37 through 38. Peter said to him, "Lord, why can I not follow you now? I will lay down my life for you." And I wish he probably wishes he didn't say that. How easy is it for us to declare our spirituality, our love for Jesus when we're around Christians, and then when the soldiers come and they have their assault rifles and they have all of a sudden sheer terror, the terror becomes a reality, persecution becomes a reality. We may not be as bold and as brave as we thought we would be until that reality actually comes. Okay, and of course Jesus answered him. Jesus knows all things. He says, "Will you lay down your life for me?" I hope this is. I don't know if this was Jesus's tone. Jesus answered, "Will you lay down your life for me?" Maybe it wasn't like that. Okay, that was the way I would say it.
That sounds sarcastic.
Yeah, it's sarcasm. Jesus.
I don't think that's...
All right, okay, I'll do it without sarcasm. Will you lay down your life for me? Truly, truly, I say to you, the
Say it
rooster.
lovingly. Will you
Truly, truly, I say to you, the rooster will not crow till you have denied me 3 times. And of course, he denies him 3 times, and then
win him over? Will you? Yeah.
Is this the part when Jesus was talking about when he said Satan asked to seek to us wheat?
oh yeah, that's the same time, yeah. If Jesus prays for us, like Jesus prays to the Father for us. If Jesus were to not to protect us, and that's something he prays for at John 17, that he would protect us from the evil one. If Jesus were to give us up to Satan, we don't realize how much of our spiritual fruit is dependent upon the Holy Spirit that's in us, upon God's protection. God just kind of makes things work. Hey, Ruby.
Hello.
Hi, Ruby.
Long time no see.
You can adjust the temperature. Now that we have more people, because
Yeah, it's very hot. My
at the be-
glasses are steaming up here.
at the beginning it was just 4 people, and so I punished everyone by
Yeah,
making it
it's very
20,
hot.
by making it 23. But now that it's 6 people, I'll raise it. Every time another person, I'll raise it a degree.
Yay.
Oh, now it's okay.
Do you know how to raise it?
Yeah, you want me to do it?
You raise it 2 degrees. 2 degrees. Really, they fogged up. I'm not kidding you guys.
Sonny,
What?
Merry Christmas. Happy birthday.
Merry Christmas.
It's yours.
No. You do it. You do it.
You know, something really, okay, 20.
You're the one.
Look how much, I love you all. 2 degrees, 25. Okay, now that we have 6 people in this room. You know, something very scary happened to
Wait, you went up. You're supposed to go down.
You want to go down?
Yeah. Colder.
I
Colder, not
You don't have to
hotter.
tell me twice.
Duh.
I really don't mind colder temperatures.
Yes.
You know,
22
like-
degrees is where I live.
Something very shocking happened to me yesterday. I realized that my mind thinks in Celsius now, no longer in Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
And that's
Join the club.
just very terrifying.
I
Like,
can't even figure out Fahrenheit anymore.
it's hard for me to figure. It's easier
I
for me to
cannot
understand
figure it
Celsius
out.
than Fahrenheit now.
People keep asking me that.
Oh my
no
gosh.
idea.
I read a very good point yesterday. Some people think the picture is very scared, so he denied 3 times. You know, but I think it's Peter is courage enough because he's courage enough to kill someone. So it's not out of fear, but it's kind of disappointment of Jesus.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
disappointing.
it's disappointing because
Yeah.
Jesus has the power to say, "Oh, I am," and I fell down. I am, and I fell down.
And keep
So
walking.
maybe in Peter's heart, he wants Jesus to do something to kill them all,
Yeah.
or to do something to punish them all. So Peter maybe doesn't understand about the carb, about the gospel. So it's a disappointment, and it's the same feeling that we don't want to come to church. Maybe we have a disappointment about God. We want a successful Jesus instead of
That's come from baby.
instead of loving Jesus. Sometimes it's just different. I think it's
Maybe.
a good point.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
Well, I have different
Yeah. Okay.
was thinking because I think because Jesus has prophesied, Peter would deny. So I think he's not disappointed.
I wouldn't mention disappointment is just about the high priest. You just try to bait Jesus, and maybe in his heart, why not do something? In human side, we want a successful ending.
What you said, Jesus, Jesus is. I think Jesus can. Maybe he's disappointed because he has known. Peter will deny. Just know.
I don't know. Peter. Yeah, it's just
I
my
think
point of view.
if I were Peter, I would have the same situation.
Yeah. Why not do something?
Yeah, but our heart is we love Jesus.
We love Jesus.
But
I love
because-
Jesus, and I also afraid. I'm afraid, and the whole thing is a chaos. I'm afraid, and I want to protect Jesus, but maybe it's a little bit disappointment about Jesus. This is not the Jesus I know before. I think it's kind of complicated.
I think they still know Jesus like it before, but they are just expecting Jesus will come like, okay, I was the king, I will do whatever.
Just like
it's
okay,
infamous.
most of people didn't agree, don't agree homosexual, and all of us vote, we disagree. But some a group of people they try to prove. They try to get the vote. They try to. They hope. They are just upset with our opinion.
Yeah,
and
no.
sometimes we are. When a group of people they deny our opinion, and sometimes we still have the concern.
Mm-hmm.
We are very bold in front of people same idea with us, but when we go to a different group, it will be different.
When you're evangelizing,
Yeah, right. I
right,
mean,
then you
the
really
minority.
find out.
Right.
Everyone,
It's
the
a-
majority is
yeah.
against you.
Yeah,
You
when they
have-
really hate you for
You
what
have-
you say.
Or
it's stress.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's I find like it's awkward like to because you kind of it normalizes when you talk about Jesus in the church, and then when you just talk about it, try to talk about it casually to someone outside the church, it's very awkward.
Yeah.
You know, you have it takes a little bit. For people
I think
to-
it's just
I feel
complicated.
it's like not only talk about you. I went to offering every week. So I feel you go there and not just talk Jesus. You live like Jesus. I think that's the major part. If
Yeah.
you live like you light and love, nobody will reject. But you not just keep the preaching like you feel it. Of course, the people not understand. But if you go like you bring your love to the children there, everybody need it. You go every day. They need it. Yesterday I went there. There was a whole group. They come from this area, bilingual church, and they join something like something. How to say? It's like the ministry, something like that. And they all come from different churches around this area. And they rent a car and went there. I just met them yesterday. It was so encouraging. Because they all come from different churches, all bilingual. And when they're very humble, they say, why we go on a mission trip to the other country? Here we can do something. Why we have to go missionary somewhere? We come here. And when they all group together, children would open the eyes. Because I'm there for many years. But I'm just by myself. A whole group to come and worship together and sing together. And those children was like, oh, it's not only Ruby, it's so many, because I when I was there, I'm like a minority, right? And there's a whole group to come. It becomes different. But you will not keep to talk about Jesus, but you showing something, love. Nobody don't want the love.
It's tiring.
Because
It's hard to love, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe sometimes we'll think Jesus
It's a lot of work.
weak, but we still have the belief to God. He has a higher wisdom.
So I think Peter was scared because he was outnumbered.
Definitely,
exactly.
Definitely, he is
yeah.
scared.
Exactly.
Definitely, is
yeah,
scared.
it's just like a very human being.
Just like I just mentioned, when I am in the group of our church, we talk about we don't agree the sexuality,
Yeah.
homosexuality. But when we went outside, or when we go outside, most
Yeah,
people
I understand.
they disagree.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't agree with the teaching from church.
Yeah.
And
But
you became.
But I was just thinking about that's a light and the darkness. Darkness
Right.
is
Yeah.
the right line.
I
You
will just
know,
talk
and
about
then-
Peter's
Yeah.
action,
Yeah.
his response. We can imagine.
Just
it's a
human.
kind of
Yeah,
right.
I think it's
And
just
until
complicated.
after he seen Jesus' resurrection, he got that bold to write Peter first and then Peter second. So I think we have to make Jesus, then you can have the boldness just really sharing the love. Because you got no love to share. Until you make Jesus, otherwise how could you have that strength to do
It's
something?
not.
like
I mean, it's not hard for us to imagine why Peter had that kind of response. 3 times of denial.
And then
You know, I just want to
you just see
it's
his,
complicated.
but you just see his life upside down. Before like that, but after that, he was so bold because he made Jesus resurrection. He was become so bold.
He's resurrected, and also, especially when they receive the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
They get all the spiritual gifts.
Exactly. That's
Mightily
the-
comes on, and then the disciples they preach Jesus, and a lot of people they build the church rapidly. And that is really encouraging, and I think it's a really good thing to read here in Taiwan. I used to when I was in college, I used to think that if I was very holy, that I could have the same gifts that Paul, and that I could get to a point where I could have my tissue and they could take it and heal other people too. And I tried very hard to get to that point.
That's egoist. That's you try. my teacher. No, Holy Spirit.
Shadow.
Yeah.
And so, obviously, I don't know. Maybe there's spiritual fruit to some degree. Obviously, if you remove a lot of sin in your life, there will be a lot of spiritual fruit. Will that necessarily be a lot of miracles? Well, I'm not going to go there. Let's just avoid that.
You know what? One thing I think it's like an instrument. You really deny yourself. It's not me. It's not me. And I offer my body. It's like an instrument. And that time God can work. And then those I really feel like they just totally. My life is yours.
All right. Well, that's always a good thing to do that. To be filled, to be moved, to be driven by the Holy Spirit. That is the goal of every Christian. Okay. We seek to glorify God the Father. We follow Christ as if as our Christ is our King, and we follow Christ. We need to keep going because it's 3:35 and Jesus hasn't even met Caiaphas yet. Who's first? Verse. And by the way, to finish the thing, we also need to be filled by the Holy Spirit that changes our affections, enables us to have spiritual gifts. We need to follow that. Okay, so is it Joyce or Ruby who's?
Ruby.
Okay, so this is Jesus before Pilate. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Joyce too.
Yeah. So
Because I
Ruby.
read the
Okay.
crow,
28.
cock crowed.
Yep.
And that Jesus from the house of
Caiaphas.
Caiaphas and the governor's headquarters. And it was early morning, and they themselves did not enter the governor's headquarters, so that they would not be defiled, but could eat the Passover.
All right. Yeah. And so
Wow.
so Caiaphas.
They think it's too dirty to enter.
And Caiaphas is only a minor figure in this. It does not. John does not talk about what happened with Caiaphas and Jesus. Obviously, Caiaphas is not considered the high priest in this story. It's his father-in-law.
They want to kill Jesus, but they don't want to use the.
Yes, they do.
Want
We're not there
to
yet. We're not yet. No, so, wait. Hold on. Unleash that truth late in a few verses, okay? All right. So they did not enter the headquarters so that they would not be defiled before the Passover. All right? This is not a Mosaic law. This is not a Mosaic law. This is one of the many laws that the Pharisees had invented, okay? They invented this law, just like a lot of other laws. Makes them feel very religious to invent laws, but this is not a law, okay? So, this just shows their hypocrisy. They're killing the Messiah to be very religious, okay? Just like a Muslim who likes to think of themselves as very religious, and yet they think that they're without sin. Just ridiculous. It's just this is just, it is false religion. It's just paganism, really.
They don't have the power to kill the Jesus. They want to use others' power to kill Jesus.
Yeah.
All right. Ruby, could you read verse 29?
Okay. So Pilate went outside to them and say,
Accusation
do you bring against this man?
They
They answered him, if this man were not doing evil, he would not have delivered him over to us.
All right, so Jesus is perfectly sinless. Jesus did not sin at all. Jesus is the most perfect person who has ever lived. He's a new Adam, okay? He is not stained by the original sin of Adam, okay? Jesus is perfect. Never sinned, not one time. So obviously the Jewish leaders have absolutely nothing to say against him. So they have to say this thing, well, we brought him to you, so therefore obviously there's something wrong with him, okay? This is just this shows that they don't really have anything. Their motivation is he's popular.
Yeah.
That's the motivation. He's popular. A lot of people think he's the Messiah, but they want to hold on to power with their false religion.
Political.
It's very political for them, and so So they want, and so they don't have really a charge against them. So they say, well, we wouldn't have brought him to you if there was nothing wrong. Basically, that's as much as they can say. Okay, it's just like if you're a Christian, one of the best compliments you'll ever get from the world, if the world hates you, you're a strong Christian. One of the best compliments you'll ever get from the world is, "Oh, that person's crazy." Because they don't have anything to say against you, but obviously you don't have selfish ambition, selfish motives, but they don't want to acknowledge that Christ is the Messiah, right? All right. By the way, Pilate was the 5th Roman prefect of Judea under Emperor Tiberius.
Yes.
Okay, this is. And so that is who Pilate is. Okay, there's a lot talked about Pilate. I don't know about you. I learned about Pilate since a very young kid because I always recited the Nicene Creed, and I knew Pilate had in some way had Jesus executed. Okay, all right. So verse 31. Yeah.
Pilate said to them, "Take him yourselves and judge him by your own law." The Jews said to him, "It is not lawful for us to put anyone to death."
Okay, and then verse 32. Actually, yeah, okay. This was to fulfill the word that Jesus had spoken to show by what kind of death he was going to die. Okay, so what is Pilate's attitude here? What is Pilate's attitude?
He didn't want to
He
judge.
didn't want to accept this case.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So because people with a limited biblical knowledge, they'll say, Pilate's the bad guy. He had Jesus killed. Okay? Ever since a little kid, I thought Pilate was the bad guy because you read the Nicene Creed and we all know it. And it all says executed under Pontius Pilate, was dead and buried. We use that account. We say that and we think, oh, Pilate's this demonic guy. Reality is, he doesn't want to be bothered by this.
That's right.
Okay, this is a
Irritation.
this is political fire that he doesn't really want to mess with. He doesn't want to. This is a very much a gray area. He's
Because it's kind of none of his business to yeah.
Right.
The Lord. It's just like you believe there's a God. You believe there's not a God. But we can't put someone who don't believe a God to the court, to judgment, because you don't believe a God. And it's a ridiculous things to.
well,
judge.
you know the story. If you want to know how bad the United States is, Joe Biden when he was
Okay. I was just reading about him yesterday.
well he was Clarence Thomas was being
Yes.
considered to being in the Supreme Court, and Biden. I don't want to get too political, but Biden said to him, "Do you believe in natural law? You're not a nihilist like everyone else, just random postmodern relativity. Like you're not. You believe in natural law."
I'm not mentioning about the Middle Age because they have the power to business to govern about the religion things.
Yeah.
I'm talking about maybe right now we have the Christian kingdom and the world kingdom.
Oh, yeah.
So we can. So I think the Pilate don't need to accept this case. He just says, Jesus, but he did something wrong. He didn't do anything. He didn't kill anyone. Yeah, so he didn't have the power to.
Yeah, and so Pilate doesn't really want to be bothered by this. Okay, he's just like, this is fire that he doesn't really want to deal with. So,
that's what I think.
so it is the Jews who really demand that Pilate does it, and there's a whole history behind this. If you're interested, there's a lot of history because obviously the Jews had accepted their to be in part of the Roman Empire. They have a long history, and I probably should have read some books, but I was lazy. Basically, there's a long history of Pilate wanting the Jews to accept the emperor as the god, as a god to be worshipped, and they accept the Roman gods. And Israel Judea was constantly getting Pilate into trouble, rejecting all this stuff. And so there is a long history against the Jews and Pilate. Okay, Pilate wants the Jews to deal with Jesus themselves, although it's against the law. Pilate just gives them the authority. He's like, well, I don't want to deal with it. You do it. And the Jews were.
You don't have a role to kill him.
Yeah, even though Jews are not allowed to execute anyone, Pilate gives them, just says, why don't you do it? And the Jews shockingly say, no, we want you to do it. Because he's innocent. He's kind of like a hot potato. Jesus is kind of a hot potato because he's totally innocent.
Yeah.
But they want him dead.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, I don't know what to do. And so, therefore...
They don't want to make their hand dirty.
Therefore, this fulfills the word that Jesus had spoken, by which death, and his death would be crucifixion. Therefore, Jesus' prophecy becomes true. Okay, verse 33. Is it my turn? Whose turn is it?
Your turn.
My turn? Okay. So Pilate entered his headquarters again and called Jesus and said to him, are you the king of the Jews? Or the Messiah, or the Christ, right? Pilate asked Jesus if he is the Messiah. Pilate is stuck politically and is trying to understand how to deal with this problem. And let me just read 24. Jesus answered, do you say this of your own accord, or did others say it to you about me? Okay. What is interesting about what Jesus' answer? And what do you think?
Jesus ask him questions.
I think Jesus is not answering the question. Are you the king of the Jews? Yes or no?
Ask him back.
Do you say this is no?
Or did others say it to you about me?
All right, did Jesus ever declare himself to be the Christ? Did Jesus ever say, hey, everyone, I am the Messiah? No, he didn't.
No.
So Jesus doesn't say, oh, yeah, you heard me tell everyone. No, Jesus never said that. Jesus was relying. Now, Jesus would say he's the Son of Man. But that is going back to the prophecy of Daniel. Jesus would take himself. He's like, this prophecy is now fulfilled. This prophecy is now fulfilled. He wants the people who are waiting for the Messiah. He's pointing them back. Now this prophecy in the Old Testament is revealed, and therefore you read that prophecy and you say, yes, the Christ is here. But Jesus never said, I am the Messiah. I am the Christ. Okay. Now we remember Peter said, oh, I believe that you are the Christ. He gets that because he's waiting for the Christ. He knows the Christ is coming from the Old Testament. But Jesus never said, don't you know, silly, I'm the Christ? So Jesus doesn't say, did you say this because I told you? He said, did you say this of your own accord, or did others say this about you? Okay. Obviously, Pilate has not been reading the Old Testament. Okay. He is not looking forward to Christ coming from the Old Testament. He's only asking this because this is part of the accusation. People are saying that he's the king of the Jews, and he's asking him. Okay. All right, sorry that it's been chopped off.
Pilate is from Rome.
Yeah.
He's not Jew. He's not Jew.
He's not a Jewish. No, he's not Jewish.
Bible.
No, he isn't. All right, verses 35 through 36. This is a big one. 35 through 36. Sonny.
Pilate replied, I am not a Jew, am I? Your own nation and the chief priests have handed you over to me. What have you done? Jesus answered, my kingdom is not from this world. If my kingdom were from this world, my followers would be fighting to keep me from being handed over to the Jews. But as it is, my kingdom is not from here.
All right, so discuss. My notes say discuss. What is Jesus' kingdom? What is Jesus' kingdom?
My kingdom is not from here. So
What is Jesus' kingdom?
not
All right, this is not like Israel's kingdom. Israel's kingdom was a real kingdom.
yes.
It was a theocracy ran by priests, ran by God's law.
Yeah.
It was a real kingdom with real soldiers and real laws.
Yes.
But Jesus' kingdom is not a physical kingdom. It's not a worldly kingdom at all.
It's not
It
a
is-
physical kingdom. It's like heaven lives in people's hearts.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah, like the church. We don't.
Yeah, it's still on earth.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
political.
I think we have an influence politically, but we are not like a political force, and it doesn't go very well. The Puritans, when they became I still remember the Puritans, who they took control over England for a few years, and not long after that, they were ripped out of England. Yeah, in the Great Ejection.
What did they do?
They controlled the political party in England. They took control of.
So very legalistic, or
No, it's kind of like there was like Republicans, Democrats.
Okay.
There was the Puritan Party, and they won in England, and that was one of the big. I think that was a big mistake for them because they entered into the physical, and no longer a physical, no longer a spiritual, no longer a spiritual guide for the church, but now they've become a physical kingdom. Okay, and then this is one of the problems wrong with the Catholic Church in a lot of countries.
Yes.
When they try, it is very much a theocracy in a lot of these places, and I don't think it works very well. The church doesn't work very well.
So it's not God's will for a religious leader to run in politics.
I didn't say that. What I'm saying. Oh my gosh. Okay.
What did you say? I didn't hear you.
It's not God's will for a Christian or a religious leader to run in the politics.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
No.
I don't think.
We definitely
I
need
think
to be
it's a
there.
two kind of different of view.
To impact.
It's a good way to.
Yeah, we are
We
given
don't
all kinds of gifts to
we don't
train the
require.
government.
I would say we don't require. The church doesn't force Taiwan to have every single political leader to be a priest. Like it was the theocracy of Israel. Okay, it's like you must be on the priest line of Benjamin if you want to be a politician in Taiwan, and we fight physically, killing people for that to happen. Then the Taiwanese, then the state of Taiwan would get very mad, and then we'll become like one of the radical Muslims, right?
I think this is a two kind point of view. In concept of Martin Luther, he will emphasize on the doctrine of two kingdoms. It's a kingdom of the Christ and the kingdom of the world.
Okay.
The doctrine, but maybe it's Calvin's mind. He will, some of the Calvin's followers, they will agree of we should do more on the politics, but we can debate it.
Yeah, we can debate
Yeah.
that.
That's Calvin?
Okay. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something about Calvin.
I don't
No,
want-
I just said yes
You
or
know,
no.
I don't
know.
I don't want to
Go-
discuss.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's like
I
I don't read all of Calvin because I would require an entire lifetime to read all of Calvin and to study all of Calvin.
I love Martin Luther, so
Yeah.
I kind of suppose that it's a doctrine of two kingdoms. We don't want to involve the politics that much.
Yeah, I would say for me, I want to build up the church. I want to build up the church. I want the church to be pure and bright. I don't want the church like a lot of churches. I don't want the church to become part of the state. And then in order to be part of the state, they have to cut out a lot of important things. They have to cut out 90% of what needs to happen and that needs to be taught in the church in order for it to be accepted. I don't want someone to Anglicanize Christianity to make a whole, Santa Claus and all this crap. You want people to understand what Christianity is, and you want the church to be kind of like Israel. You want church to be a pure light in a dark world. You don't want to destroy that purity, dim that light, in order for you everyone in that country to have a cross on the door, which means nothing. It's just a cross because they don't understand, and they may not have a real relationship with Jesus, and they wouldn't even know. They don't really even know what the gospel is. At the time of the Reformation, if someone was preaching the gospel, you burned them alive.
Yeah.
If you want to really change the people's heart, you should emphasize on the gospel. You can't just to emphasize on the political things, to use the power to vote or to use the.
Don't go
I don't
near
know,
it.
but
Just don't go
some
near it, really.
followers of Calvin do emphasize on the. We should have a kind of power over politics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that you should. If you're a citizen of Taiwan, a citizen of the United States, you should still be a part of that.
Yeah.
But don't. And I understand if someone like.
Sometimes it's ambiguous zone. Of it.
Yeah, and one of the worst presidents, I think, Democrats, Republicans, they'll both agree.
Well, we can discuss.
One of the worst presidents ever was Jimmy Carter, and he was a believer, right?
Yes.
And so the peanut farmer,
Yeah.
but and way over his head.
Yeah.
Do you really want to have a Christian? Is it so important to have a Christian that you're willing to have someone who is really doesn't know what they're doing? Something like that. Maybe I'm going a little bit too into politics. Maybe we'll get away. Well, maybe we'll get out of politics, because if we're going to offend people, let's offend people spiritually. Let's not offend people politically. We're going to offend enough people spiritually.
We have the power to change the world.
Yes, and so and the big thing is we don't say, we don't kill people to promote the church. Okay, this is not Islam. Muhammad doesn't die, and we announce jihad for the whole world like a fascist kingdom. I mean, we just the Crusades was wrong.
I probably will agree to kill Muhammad.
Yeah, I don't mind that, but we don't say, hey, I don't know, Canada. I'm from the United States. We always make fun of Canada, so I'm going to make fun of Canada. Canada, you need to all become Christians. Okay, it's like, well, we have some Christians. You all need to become Christians now. And if they say no, we don't go in and kill them all. Because for a religious war, right? That is obviously we don't do that. Okay, probably. A lot of what was going on during the Crusades was not right, and we need to move on. We need to move on.
Yeah.
We don't want to stuck.
How did we get to Canada?
I always make fun of Canada.
Oh, okay.
It's an American thing. We always make fun of Canada.
My kingdom is not here. We're in Canada.
All right, a very important part of the Reformation is that the Pope is not the head of the church.
Okay.
A pastor and elders are not the head of the church. A big council filled with bishops are not the head of the church. Who is the head of the church? Who is the head of the church? Jesus is the head of the church. This is one of the major problems, major issues of the European Reformation. The Pope is not the head of the church. Jesus is the head of the church. He has his apostles. He taught the apostles. The apostles wrote the Bible. Therefore, sola scriptura. We obey Christ. We obey Christ through the Bible. Okay, very, very important. Okay, all right. So I think I'm going to read the rest.
Okay.
So that we try to leave by 4 at least. Then Pilate said, we haven't even gotten here yet. Then Pilate said to him, "So you are a king?" Jesus answered, "You say that I am a king. For this purpose I was born, and for this purpose I have come into the world, to bear witness to the truth. Everyone who is of the truth listens to my voice." Pilate said to him, "What is truth?"
Yeah.
And this is the reason why I sent out the video last night of Del Tackett, because it's very important to him. The truth of Christianity is very important to him. Okay, what does it mean that Jesus came to bring the truth? What does it mean that Jesus came to deliver the truth? What does that mean?
He's the way to the Father.
All right. Obviously, yeah, you're right, Ruby. Obviously, Jesus came to be a sacrifice for Christians. However, in my opinion, I like to see Jesus, and Joyce, you might. I'd like to hear your input on this. I'd like to hear everyone's input, and Sunny as well, and Joanna. Ruby, just keep your opinions to yourself. I'm just kidding, Ruby. I'm just kidding.
Everyone agree, the Bible you agree.
No, I want to hear. No. I want to hear. I want to hear everyone's opinion. But
You're my Jared.
I like to see when Jesus is addressing Pilate, because Pilate is a prefect of Rome. I like to see it as Jesus addressing the world, not the church. I kind of like to see it that way. Jesus is not talking. This is not this intimate love between his apostles. This is not washing their feet and telling them, how much he loves them. Now Jesus is addressing Pilate, and he's saying, "I've come to bring the truth," and this is how the world should see Jesus. Okay. You're bombarded by falsehoods and lies and false religions and false philosophies on a regular basis. Yeah. The world, outside the church, the world should see Jesus as the truth. The truth will set you free, right? And of course, Pilate acts like many people of the world. He acts like, who knows the truth? What is truth? That is very important. Jesus is telling you, this, I am truth. This is so important to people see Jesus. I am the truth. You've heard lots of different things, lots of different theories and philosophies, lots of different religions. I am the truth. And Pilate says, what is truth? At his age and his knowledge, he doesn't know what the truth is, right? I found this political cartoon. I know it's getting a little bit late. I found this political cartoon online. It's called The Descent of the Modernist. Okay, The Descent of the Modernist. Okay, this is a fundamentalist cartoon. Who wants to guess what year? What year do you think this is? What year do you think this is? 1922.
Oh.
Really old. 1922. This is before the postmodernism. This is still the modernists. And he's trying to show the decline of the West from Christianity. Then Bible's not infallible. Man's not made in God's image. No miracles, no virgin birth, no deity, no atonement, no resurrection. And then the last step is agnosticism before atheism, nihilism. What is truth? And by the way, the 1920s, the fundamentalism was actually a good thing. It's not so much anymore. It's kind of black and white and overly simplistic. But back in the 20s, you were either a fundamentalist or you were a liberal. Okay, we would have all wanted to be fundamentalists at this time, right? What is the significance of Pilate not finding? Oh, we're not there yet. All right, so that's the truth. Okay, verse 38. After he had said this, he went back outside to the Jews and told them, "I found no guilt in him. But you have a custom that I should release one man for you at the Passover. So do you want me to release to you the King of the Jews?" And I'm sure that's sarcastic. The King of the Jews? And they cried out, "Not this man, but Barabbas." Now Barabbas was a robber, and he was also a rebel, right? All right. So what's the significance of Pilate not finding any guilt in Jesus? What's that significance? You're all tired. I'll just tell you. You're all like, "Hi, Thomas, I got things to do. I got,
we're a little tired.
I think I left the gas on my stove on, and
Been up
I
since
forgot
5
to
this
feed the
morning.
cat, and I got a long trip home. All right, so Jesus is perfectly sinless. We all know that, okay? Pilate is interrogating him. He doesn't see any guilt. No reason to crucify Jesus. Jesus is the perfect, the blameless, spotless offering for our sins, okay?
Well, he knows an innocent person when he sees it.
Yeah, he's innocent. He talks to him.
Examined him closely.
I don't think Pilate really needs a lot of. Nobody's saying.
knows.
No one's saying. No one's saying. Well, this guy killed someone. He didn't say. No one's saying. No one's saying. You should kill him. Well, he murdered someone, or he had. He did some crime. No one's saying anything like that. They're just saying
Never examined someone like him.
Yeah.
he's never examined someone like that. There's nothing wrong with him. He's just popular, right?
Obvious evidence.
He's asking him for the truth, you know.
Now, Pilate offers to release the King of the Jews sarcastically. Pilate doesn't really believe that he's the King of the Jews, and obviously the Jewish leaders don't as well. Barabbas was a revolutionary and a thief, and it shows the heart of the Jewish leaders and the Jews there, that they would rather have a 10 Commandment breaker.
Yes.
And I think that might be right. Why John? If they said that Barabbas was a zealot or something like that, maybe. But John wants to point out this guy was a 10 Commandment breaker. He was a thief.
Yeah.
He broke the 10 Commandments. But they would rather have the commandment breaker than the true Christ. Okay, and of course, how does this relate to our relationship with Christ? The sinner is set free, and Jesus is judged as if he were the sinner. He's given the price, right?
Yes.
The Barabbas, the sinful Barabbas, is set free even though he is guilty. And Jesus is crucified even though he is innocent. Okay? So I'm sorry if you don't like this, but in this story, you are Barabbas. That is who you are. You are Barabbas in this relationship. You weren't a revolutionary, but you broke the commandments, probably all of them to some degree. Okay.
Well, I'd rather be Barabbas than be Pilate.
All right, maybe. I'd rather be Pilate. I would rather be Pilate than Annas, right?
Oh, yeah. That's for sure.
And then it also reminds me of Leviticus 16 with the Day of the Atonement. The high priest was to cast lots over 2 goats. One was sacrificed and the other was let go.
Oh, yeah.
It makes you think. All right, that's all we're going to do. All right, so we have a group that's way too small.
Yeah.
I have no men to confess to. Confess all my sins to. Normally,
Is that what we're supposed to be doing?
no. Well, we don't have any time.
Here, the Baxter, is he back to?
I think he's coming. I think he's.
Wait, there's pizza to eat, guys.